Hey guys! Alright, so we're doing a reshoot today. I did my first attempt at a toot yesterday I did it, so I'm a tutorial virgin, and it didn't work very well. There was a lot of internet issues, so now we're going the YouTube route. But this is what we were building, which is our Space Marine power station. We'll do a little, so you can get a good look at it. Okay, so what we were actually doing yesterday, if you were with us, if you're not, welcome, if you were, welcome back, is basically the gravel here that we were doing. We were learning how to do that, what it looks like painted, and I've done some little swatches here for you so you can actually see the most common colours. You've got black or brown. The blue I use for undersea terrains. So if you're looking at doing that, white, I don't know, snow. I don't live where it snows, so who knows. Grey for cement, and the red I've done for blood spatter, which I'll do a tutorial on later. But basically, you can even, with this, so if you're using this as your main ground, I would then dry brush it, and you can even actually get sand and put it on top if you want to. And that kind of just, again, gives it something else. So there are a lot of different routes that you can go with this. It's a really versatile thing that you can do. But anyway, getting back to our main project here, the power station, you'll notice here that my pipes are not perfectly straight. I'm actually going to be making this look aged, so it's going to look like it's old and it's falling apart and all the rest of it, but you can see there. So I'm going to be having little vines and plants and stuff coming out here. All this is going to be disguised. I'm going to be making this look like bad welds, so it's not going to be designed to look perfect and pretty. But as you will hear me say all the time, there is no such thing as the perfect way to do a project. It's whatever you think is what you think it should be. So while we get started, or before we get started, I should say, have you got your Diet Coke? I've got mine. Urgent supplies. If you haven't got your Diet Coke, get your coffee or your Jacks or your whatever it is, lemonade, go with it. Spirits, grab whatever it is you need, and let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do, so going back to what we did yesterday, just covering how I actually did this, just so that we didn't have to waste half the video on building the actual structure. So the pipes are obviously toilet rolls. You can either, when you put them together, I find the easiest way to do it is to put some tape inside the roll and then stick the other one on. That way, if you're an OCD freak and you want the lines to line up, they're going to. So you can play with it a bit and get it lining up the way that you want it to line up. You know, you can get it looking nice. And then when I've got it flush and I've got it the way I want, I'll flip it over and shove a paintbrush down there and just smooth the edges out so it holds it. So that's how I got it to hold originally. Then I'll stick it to the board and then I'll go around here. So I just put Aquid here on as my main glue. So I just traditionally would put a drizzle on and let it run down because I want this to be raised up and looking like bad welds because I'm a bad welder. So I think it's all about realisticness. If you want to smooth that out, you can do. So the additions to the pipes, there are two ways you can do this. This is one way, which this is the kit that you can use. Okay, so I have done one like this before and it was all right, but I actually prefer to do my own sort of ideas. So this is what I'm using today. And I've got another one like this, but which is where I got the danger thing, but I haven't got the package for that. But basically they're building widgets. So if you actually look at how this comes versus the picture, you can see, for example, this is what it is showing in the picture. And that's the pieces for it here. So you're actually getting quite a few bits, so you don't have to make what's in the picture. You can use other pieces for other things, which I've done with these two pieces of a security camera. So these two pieces of a security camera are actually these right here on the floor. So this is what it looks like cut out. And what I'm gonna do is straighten that edge, and then literally it just gets glued, say there. When I do it, I won't be doing it right now, but it gets glued there and another one there. And then they'll get decorated like I've done here. And it just becomes, it looks like metal hooks. So when I paint it, that'll be what it looks like. The most common question I get asked when people see my pictures on Instagram and whatnot, why do I do the terrain first? It's entirely up to you how you want to do it, but I actually prefer, I mean, if you're a clever cookie, you could paint all these pieces and then stick it all on in happy days. But for me, I actually find it easier to do the terrain because then it's literally like covering X amount, because I go crazy with it. I tend to put a lot of pieces in. So it just means there's that much less to paint. Why waste time if you don't have to? So what I've done, we've got our pipes. I've got, these are little hole covers that are one of my widget sets. I've got that on there. On this side, I've got a seal on there. So, and then the same on this side. So hopefully you can all see that. So it's literally a matter here. What you've got is layers. So you've got your pipes. I've then gotten just a couple of random shapes, I believe. I think it was off one of my other building sets. But it's just a couple of shapes that I've then used, cut to make fit, and then put in to become the stands of things. This, I believe, is a ladder out of one of my old kits that I've put on here to make a platform out of. I've made a little ladder. This is just out of a bits and pieces, so I've kind of made a little ladder just here. And on this side, we actually have a ladder and the danger thing happening there. That's also, again, this is a layer of 1, 2, 3 widgets to get that effect. So over here, this is actually missing a piece there, but that's all right. We'll sort that out later. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, again, I'll show you how to do this effect. And again, you've got the example here of how it's painted. So we'll do that. And then we're going to make some grasses and some plants. And we're going to put those on. So I have a little hack here. I don't know where you are in the world, but if you have a Kmart, I bought one of these for $5. And you get 2 for 1 here, because you can actually, this is all silly putty. You can pull all this out and you get another painting pot. And it looks all very swish. But in the meantime, this is the part we're interested in. So what we're going to do, whenever I want to do plants, I literally just cut one of these leaves off and use a leaf. So you're going to get quite a bit out of this one little thing, as you can see that I have. So we'll get back to that later. So starting off, we'll need our materials. So the main thing I use for this, I've got my gravel with bits in it apparently. I've got my gravel, so I actually happen to live in the middle of the Aussie outback, mate. So my gravel is full of like little bits of wood chips and things like that. I don't mind, because I actually think it adds something. It adds more to the, you know, the beaten down and aged effect. But if you're insisting on having pure gravel, you can get it from fish shops, so aquarium shops. You just want to make sure that you go for freshwater stones, because the saltwater stones, the salt will actually eat the paint. So you need freshwater stones. If you're like me and you don't care, you want to live off the land, you can put it in the oven. You need to basically put it in on about 130 degrees. I don't know, ovens, fan force, conventional, I don't know, just make it hot. And that'll kill off any bacteria that could get into your glue and cause mold, and that's going to be something you absolutely don't want. So once you've got that done, and if you don't have an oven, toaster, put it on something metal and shove it in the toaster and put the toaster sideways, and that'll do the same thing. So we've cooked our gravel. We've got pre-cooked gravel here. Because I live in the Australian outback, I've also got some sand. This colour sand just comes around the back of my house. I also have red sand that I use. I have rocks, like basically any of my terraining pieces that are actual bits of nature have come from somewhere around my house, because I live on a massive property. All right, so we have our gravel. The first thing we're going to do is get our aquid here. This stuff is great. You can also use basically any PVA glue that you want. Anything you prefer, like whatever, as long as it sticks. Super glue you can use, and it dries much quicker. I wouldn't recommend it because you don't get the best finish, but if you are on a time constraint, it is a handy thing to have. So basically you can see here that I'm taking all levels of careful, you know, I'm being very prestigious how I put this glue on. I don't care, glue's glue. So you'll learn with me, there are a lot of terrainers out there that are very specific on things. This is how it must be. To me, I'm like, what was that painter? Bob Ross, you know, happy accidents. To me, there is no wrong way to do it. Art is art. And I'm somebody that doesn't like to bugger about. I'm somebody that really likes to get in, get the job done. I mean, you want a good effect, but you don't want to go too crazy. I am not doing anything particularly special with this. I am literally just smearing it around. You can use this product to get quite a few different effects if that's what you're after. So you can basically, if you were going to do a sand and you wanted a really smooth finish, you would go really smooth with it, like so. So you want your glue smooth. If you don't care like me because you're using gravel and you want lots of glue, or just because you want mounds or whatever, just do it how I'm doing it. I'm not being careful of our silo here because I do want the gravel bits, little bits of it to be sticking, so it looks like it's actually been here for a while, because any silo that has just arrived is not going to look like this. Alright, so that's our glue. Now, again, because I'm all about being very, very delicate and careful, not at all, there is no right or wrong way to do this. I literally grab a handful and pour it on. Just chuck it on. You know, again, no careful way, no special oh dear, sacrifice a virgin at midnight, turn around 3 times, eat a pig's heart, none of that. Literally just chuck it on. Alright. So once you've got that on all of the areas, I did a little bit over here just to get some stuff off my brush. Once you've done all the areas that you want, I recommend giving it a little pat just to make sure that everything is kind of adhering as best as it can. Okay. So we'll be kind and give that a couple of seconds to dry. Aquid here, to dry properly is like, I don't know, like 2-3 hours or something. It should say on the bottle. But yeah, so maximum strength if you're gluing something strong is 12 hours, but if you're just looking to do what I'm doing here, I've clumped that on pretty thick, and because the stone is porous and because there's quite a lot of the glue, it's going to take about 20 minutes to dry, and then probably I would say leave it 30, 35, 40 before you paint, ideally minimum, but if you're going to go straight after, I mean, I did it yesterday on the tutorial just to show you guys what this would look like painted, and I mean, you can see it's not done anything, it's not a big deal. So the part that I did yesterday, for those of you that are perfectionists and can see my little bold spot just here, you might panic and think, oh my God, what do I do? You know, there's a bold spot. You can either touch it in, or you can be like me and not care, in which case I literally, this area also had a little bold spot like this, couple of them, and you can see I've done different paints here and none of them shows it except for the primer, like, so none of it is going to show, and this is because it's under really strong light. So again, there is no, it has to be perfect, because A, paint will disguise a lot of things, and B, it's all about your art. Okay, so tip it off. So if you live at home with mum and dad, number one, my deepest sympathies. Number two, don't do this inside or mum will kill you. All right. So the difference in color, in case anyone is worrying, it's because this half is dry, this half is not. So this is how we've applied it. That is it. That is the process. You can see here that because this side is dry, there is a slight color inconsistency. If you were looking to specifically go for this effect unpainted, all you would do is once it's dry like it is here, do another coat, and that's fine, and it follows the exact same process. Before you do that second coat, if I can give you any advice, get hairspray, a maximum strength, like a level 5, or it'll say maximum hold hairspray. Spray that over the whole thing. It dries quickly and it's going to hold all of the surface gravel tight so that you can then go over with the second layer without it removing it. So now that we've done that, the next thing we're going to be doing is some grass and whatnot. So I often get asked, what is the difference between grasses? So you've got a couple things here. You've got static grass. So anyone who's been into a hobby or wargaming shop would have seen this stuff. And it's basically a stick-on grass. And if you apply it kind of thicker, it comes out like this. And if you apply it thinner, which I do if I want a quick board to hold my dryads or something, it comes out like this. So kind of astroturf looking if we were talking real world. So you can see that's what static grass is. I prefer not to use it. That grass actually belongs to my roomie. So this is what I use. So I use terraining grasses. And the reason I use these, you can see they've got, they're pre-coloured, which means it's a hell of a lot easier than me having to dry brush them. They're sticky and they just stick on. So this area here where we were bent in and I was saying I was going to get some grass and whatnot in there. So I'm going to grab a couple. There you go. Now when that's painted and rusted, what imperfection? What were we talking about? What imperfection? Sometimes the stick on these is great, sometimes it's not. Glue is always your friend if it doesn't stick. The other thing you can get, I use these. These are a stick-on kind of flower and they come in a few different colours. I absolutely hate this yellow, which is why I've had this for forever. But I do use a lot of the purple, the red, really nice for sticking on if you like to do flowery terrains, which I'm a Sigmar player, so that'll be what I'll be doing next. Right, so that gives us an idea of how we're going to do our grasses. So the next thing, I like to have sort of a realistic thing going on, and the best way to do it is to work out who are these people, what do I want this to look like, what are they doing. So the big thing is these people, this is designed for the Space Marines. This is designed to be an abandoned sort of busted out old station that's been shut down for forever, that the Space Marines have actually taken down, like they've come to visit and decided to set this up as a temporary station. So the question is, what are they going to need? Being that they're Space Marines, I'm going to have later a setup with little batteries and little walk cords going everywhere and little portable satellites being put up here and little things like that to try and get the idea across. But again, to make it look realistic, it's about what is it supposed to be used for. So, getting back to our planting, we get our $5 Kmart plant and literally cut off a leaf. So, and this is dusty. If I was concerned about this, I would wash it first, but I like the dust. It adds something to it. You're just going to cut off strips. Okay? So, once we've cut off our strips, we're left with something that looks... I've got some pre-prepared strips here. You're going to be left with something that looks like this. So these are really handy because A, there's no wrong way to put them in, and B, they add a real feel to the situation. So what I would do, decide where I want to put them, which is under this silo, and I usually just kind of do a little test fit, just shove them in how I think they should go. Okay. So I would usually do this in 2 layers. So this would be layer 1. So happy with that. I would then get my super glue, glue it into place. Then I would do layer 2, which would be like this. Where'd that other one go? Right, now we're getting somewhere. Right, so I'd have my little grasses there and glue them into place. The other thing that you could do, if you want to make your own plants, you want to cut a triangle. So what we would be making is an agave. So when you get your triangle, fold it in half, and then I would get pinches on that, pinch it and glue it so it looks like that. But because we're doing a tutorial today, I'm going to use a point as my middle piece, and that's going to make it a little quicker, which of course has gone missing. All right, I guess we're doing it the hard way. I'll do it this. All right, so this is our piece we've just made. So that's our centerpiece, and literally it's just a matter, you're going to need about probably 9 of these little triangles. It's just a matter, glue, so you want to wrap them around, so 1, 2, 3, 4 and around, and it's going to become a little plant. Or you can just hold it like that if you really want to, whatever. Like when it's glued, you can put it like that, use that as a plant. But basically it's going to hold it together and give you the option of having a couple of different plants. I'll put up on my next video a close-up of this finished, and then you can see what I'm actually talking about a little better. But so this is basically your grasses. So while we're waiting for this side to dry, over here, the big thing that you need to remember when you're doing a terrain that figures are going to go on is how much floor space or space for them to sit do you have. So we could get figures along here, we could get them along here. We need quite a bit of floor space. So what I would recommend is if you are going to go crazy on something, like with grasses and, you know, plants and things, do it on the underneath here. Do it on the edges of the pipes, things like that that aren't going to be taking a huge amount of space away from the floor, because you don't want to be losing that floor space. Otherwise, the whole thing is for no reason. So we're literally, I'm just getting stick-on grass, sticking it in. For those wondering how much this is, I am Australian, so we have like the weakest currency ever, I'm pretty sure. So it's $20, I think, Australian, or $15, somewhere between $15 and $20 Australian is how much these grasses are. And the same, this one has a price on it. This one was $11 Australian. And these are, I believe, around $10 to $15 Australian. So if you are in the UK, double the halve the Australian dollar. Double it, and that's, no, it's half, isn't it? It's halve it, and that's how many pounds it would be. I don't know. Use Google currency converter or something, I don't know. Right, so we've got our grasses going in. You can start to see, I'm actually going to paint this terrain black, and then I'm going to dry brush white. So you're actually going to see that the grasses and whatnot will stand out a lot better. In addition to my pipes and whatnot, it's all about making it look interesting. For me, we don't have deserts quite like this anywhere, which I'm trying to portray here. We don't have that, so I'm kind of using guesswork as to how this should look. But so I've done a broken down silo here. I'm going to do a build up of rocks going out here, so it'll look like that this has been here for quite some time. I've done some broken rubbish here, some old crates. They're going to get painted, an old tire. And as I go, I'll add things like, you know, skulls and bits and pieces like that to give it some interest. Again, the back. So when you do your gravel, which I did ever so carefully, when I was saying if you want to throw it on heavy anywhere, go under the pipes, under here. And the reason is if you had any glue spillage like here that you don't want to clean up, it will hide it. Again, it's about fixing the boo-boos that makes it a good piece. Right, so again, with your pipes, you want to think about those as well. I've added a bit of interest in these by adding vents, a little portal thing here to get through. We've got all the pieces here. Because it's not just a straight pipe all the way along, that's what's adding a lot of interest. So just remember, with anything, it is all about the details. I've also got my Mario style pipe on its own over here because I couldn't resist. I am a Nintendo fan. And I'll be doing the back and this side here later today before I paint it, and then I can get this finished up for everyone. Right, so grass, plants, you can see that it's really starting to add something. If you are not somebody that is crafty, you don't want to have to cut up and make plants or anything. You can buy plants, but they are expensive. eBay is your friend, but I mean, again, quality. I mean, if the quality is no good, you can always paint them, but why bugger about, really, in my opinion. Right. So, our terrain is starting to get there. You can basically, at this point, add whatever you want. I've kept it quite sparse because I thought it would be best for everybody to sort of be able, you know, to use it. But to go back to how to make terrain pieces, so this is my lovely spare parts box, and I have another one of those. If you're using this for a Space Marine army, I would recommend, like, this is my roomie's army. I'm not a Space Marine player, so I don't know what the hell this is. It looks like some part of a weapon, but things like this, painted up correctly and installed on the pipes and whatnot, can start to look like, you know, renegade firing systems and things like that. You can have, again, I have no idea what this is or what it's supposed to be, but to me, I could paint that up to look like a battery pack. It's about what is the shape of the thing you're trying to create. Find something that shape and disguise it is usually the way that I do it. But again, that's entirely up to you. I do have little plastic crates and things, I don't know if you can see that I could scatter about here if I wanted to add effect. All sorts of things like that. You can, if you are in Perth, Australia, or if you're in Western Australia, you need to treat yourself and go to Tactics. Tactics is a store at the end of London Core in Perth, and it has everything you could ever want and more. Just make sure you go on payday because you will literally spend until you cannot spend anymore. They sell all sorts of little cool kits. Like, these little antenna kits and stuff are like $5 and you get like 20 of them. They do, again, it's just everything. I've got another spare parts chest here that is just absolutely chock-a-block full. Absolutely full of random little bits and pieces. I've got little graves in there. I've got all sorts happening in there. They even sell, you can get grave kits where you get little blank gravestones, and they've also got ones, I think I've used them all, but that are really, really, really detailed that you can do all sorts of cool stuff with. They sell little portal hatches. Again, these little portal hatches. All of this stuff, again, is available from TT Combat. Or you've got, who's the advertiser for this one? Or you've got miniaturescenery.com. So ttcombat.com or miniaturescenery.com is your go-to for these things. So write that down. Right, so again, I hope, I don't really, this is my first tutorial. I don't know what everyone was wanting to see. I'm not a great painter, but I will do absolutely what I can if you just let me know what you want to see. But I hope this has been helpful to sort of give you an idea on how to get that realistic looking effect. This is really going to come to life after I paint it. And again, you will see the finished product of this in the next video. I might actually call in a favour from a friend of mine who goes by Lord Snooch 40k on Instagram. So check him out. He does a lot of detail painting that is fantastic, so I might go and hit him up for some help. But you can see here, this is basically such a simple thing to do. And I mean, the total cost on this, I'm using, in case anyone was wondering, it's a foam board with cardboard backing. This cost me like $1, and so I went and bought like heaps of them. So that's $1, and then toilet rolls free, because who wants to keep them anyway? And then my pieces here, I mean, I think I paid $10 for that and a few pieces with it, and again $10 for that. So what's that total cost here? Say $25 Australian. And I've used very little of my grass and very little plant stuff, and you can see just how much of an effect that starts to make. So I'm going to carry on the grass all under here. I'm going to have some other plants going on. When this is finished and I put up the photos, if there is anything you need to know, please ask. I am more than happy to help. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and have a great day, and goodbye from sunny Australia.